All right, opportunity to chat with one of our favorite national guys from NBA.com. He's been in town for about a week working on something involving the Trailblazers. We'll see what he can share with us. It's our friend Ian Thomsen. Ian, how are you, sir?
Great, Brian. How are you?
Doing terrific, and I guess as I'm finding out, I should pay more attention to the bio that's probably attached at the Ian Thomsen fan club, cover page. But I always used to think of you as an East Coast guy, but finding out just recently that you've got a lot of Portland roots to your background.
Yeah, I grew up in Lake Oswego, and remember when the Blazers first came to town. And then one way or another, we ended up moving down to Mobile, Alabama about 3 months before they won the championship. And I was probably the only Portland Trailblazers fan in Mobile, Alabama at the time. So.
Now, Ian, now you've taken it from having Portland roots to going home. You know, I'm from Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Hey, there you go.
Wow.
You have a bit more of an accent than me, Antonio, but not a lot. Not a lot.
So how long have you been in town? How long do you plan on being in town?
Well, I think they're going to kick me out. I'm staying with my parents, and I think they've had enough. So on Wednesday, I'm going to leave. I will have been here for 4 games. I'm working on a story on C.J. McConnell and a few other things while I'm in town, but it's just been something to me how quickly the Trailblazers have turned things around. A team that looked like, by all accounts, it should have been trying to get one of the top 3 picks in the draft, get one of those guys in the draft. And here they are. Of course, it's a depressed year in the Western Conference at the bottom of the conference, so there's a chance now for a team with a losing record to make the playoffs. Even so, I think everybody in the league's just really surprised that Portland's in there with a chance, and today is a playoff team.
And, we were just talking to head coach Terry Stotts not long ago about the fact that it's a competitive organization, that they want to win every day. They don't throw the word tanking around, but some fans are nervous because if the Blazers make the playoffs, they will lose their first-round draft choice. But over the years, and you probably would have to do a little more thinking about this to maybe come up with a consensus answer, but have you seen more examples of going for a playoff spot that ends up being productive, even if you lose a draft choice in the interim? Or it just seems like draft choices are such a crapshoot in many respects that you're better off going for the sure thing, I think, and kind of trying to create that winning foundation that getting to the playoffs, even if you get eliminated in the first round, at least getting there just still seems to mean something.
I'm with you, Brian, because, okay, if you have a young team like they do here, I mean, there's a lot of young players on this team. And so what are you trying to do? You're not in the business to do well in the draft. You're in the business to develop your team. And the best way to develop them is to have them go through a hard season where they're competing to make the playoffs. And then, if they could make the playoffs, give them a 4-game series against the Warriors or the Spurs and let them go through that. And then they realize just how much more they have to learn. They realize it the hard way, but it's a great lesson to learn. It makes a difference for young players. I always go back to the Indiana Pacers and Larry Bird, who I used to cover when he was a player in Boston, and I worked for the Boston Globe way back when. And he used to get a lot of grief in Indiana for always trying to make the playoffs and trying to win every last game, even when they didn't have a chance to make the playoffs. And it would look to their fans and other people like they were sabotaging their draft position by winning these meaningless games at the end of the year. But he felt very strongly that he was trying to develop these young players and teach them how to win. And you can't be trying to teach them how to win and then all of a sudden say, okay, now we're going to try to lose. You're not going to try to win anymore. Well, that's a terrible message to send to a young team. I think it's very inconsistent. So I really like the idea of saying to heck with the draft, within reason, and just go for it during the year. Try to develop your young players, teach them the same things day in, day out, no mixed messages, no cynicism. Just go for it. I think that's what Portland's doing, and I think it's a good plan.
Ian, when you look at this roster and you look where they are in relation to where the league is and where they're trying to go, I have said that they are steps, and I mean big steps behind a team like Golden State, but they do have 2 very dynamic backcourt players to build around, and that's where Golden State started their surge. They had Steph Curry and then Klay Thompson, and they were able to build around those two players. Obviously, the Blazers are nowhere near where Golden State is right now, but you got to have a starting point. You have to be able to model your team around something, and I think the Blazers right now are modeled around the Golden State Warriors maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah, Antonio, and look, they were exactly where the game's headed. It's a perimeter game right now. That's where, when I was a kid, when the Blazers first came to Portland, you built around the post and you tried to get as close to the basket as you could. Now it's a three-point line game. That's where the defense meets the offense now, and the pick and roll and all of that stuff. And they've got two guys that can do everything. They both have a point guard mentality to them. They can both create for other players and create their own shot as well. Defensively, how are they going to do going forward? They're both young. Let's see how that goes. Let's see what kind of big men they put behind them over the next few years. The shot blockers, rangy defenders. I don't think anybody in the league can guard the three-point line by themselves as a backcourt. It has to be a team defense in this day and age to get it done. But I just like where they are going. That it's about the future. 15 years ago, would this have made sense to have two small guards in the backcourt that scored a lot of points? I don't think so. I think people would have said this can't work. But now I think you're right. You look down at Golden State, and there's a clear model for how it can work.
Ian Thomsen, NBA.com, with us here on Trailblazers Courtside. Let's ask you some league questions. We're not that far away from the trade deadline. It's always speculative to look at things this far out. But as you kind of hear whispers around the league, do you expect that we're going to have an active trade deadline, especially with so many teams feeling that maybe they have a shot at getting to the playoffs?
Yeah, but what really throws this market off this year, I think, and it's going to make it really hard to predict who's going to be dealt, is that there isn't going to be a team in the league going into the summer that is in financial difficulty. This summer and then next summer, the TV money is going to go up so much. The teams that really haven't budgeted very well, they're going to get a bailout. They're not going to be in trouble financially, so they're not going to have to trade guys. And then in the past decade, that's been a big push for players being put on the market because their teams couldn't afford them, or they were in trouble with their budget, or being under the cap, or not wanting to pay the luxury tax. Well, I think all that goes out the window now. Teams are going to feel like they're getting the free pass for the next years with all the new TV money coming in, and so it's going to be harder, I think, to come up with those players who are available on the market at the deadline. You hear rumors about Atlanta is interested in trading Jeff Teague. That one rings true, but the idea of them trading Al Horford, I just don't see why they would do that. I'm sure there's always more trades at the deadline than I would think, but major ones, blockbusters, I just don't know.
So with all that money influx coming into the NBA in the next couple of years, it almost sounds like it's going to be 3 or 4 years before that buyer's market happens again, where all of a sudden teams have overpaid for guys. They realize they've overpaid for guys, and now they're looking to make swaps.
Right, and then when it happens, I think it's really going to happen, because I think we are all going to be scratching our heads over the next couple of summers saying, this guy got this much, we're going to see 6 men making big money in the years to come, and maybe a team has a good player, and they don't want to let him go, and they say, okay, we'll pay him more than we think he's worth because we have this extra money and we can't afford to lose him right now. It's going to be a great time to be a free agent. It's been a long time since this happened. The money's been plateaued for a long time, and now all of a sudden it's going to go up. The economy it's going to be a boom time for the players, and it's going to be phenomenal 2 years from now to see what some of these players are making.
We always hear that everybody wants to copy the formula of a winner, and yet I find it curious when it comes to head coaching situations that Jeff Hornacek gets fired today, so that's 4 head coaches that have been fired in the NBA before the All-Star break. So as opposed to looking at, say, San Antonio and seeing that one of their keys to success over the years has been continuity of personnel, that there are still organizations that don't necessarily seem to have a formula, or they change that formula that they think was going to be what would lead them to success. They get impatient with their head coaches. Is the head coaching position in the NBA, perhaps at least with some places, maybe more volatile than it's ever been?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's there's just so it seems to me there's more pressure than ever, and a lot of it has to do with the money that these owners are paying for their franchises. And they're a different kind of owner. They're much more involved than the guys used to be, the owners used to be, and they want a return on their investment more quickly than ever. And there's just something about this day and age where there's a greater reaction to everything. A little losing streak or things seem to be going wrong, and it's just harder to show patience, it seems. And that, to me, that's just what's so impressive about Terry Stotts. I mean, you look at every year he's been with the team, I think they've overachieved. I think they've done much better than people thought. I know the first year they ended up on a long losing streak, which coincidentally helped them to keep their draft pick or do well in the draft that year. But, I mean, from the second year on, they've just blown out the over-under number on what they were supposed to be as a team. And this year is just another example. They're just so much better than you thought. And he has a way of efficiently making use of the players he has and making a team that's rebuilding seem like it fits together perfectly. It's a real talent, and I don't think it's taken for granted.
I agree. First, it's not really taken for granted, especially in the cities and by coaches and general managers in those cities. But it seems like as a league, though, people focus more energy on the good teams that are good as opposed to a team like this one. And Coach Stotts may or may not get much mention in terms of Coach of the Year, but he has certainly taken a team that wasn't expected to do much and created a great product out there on the floor.
Oh, I agree. I think, he'll be one of the guys they'll be on the list for Coach of the Year. The way things are going right now, we still have a long way to go, obviously. But at the same time, it's the hardest, I can tell you, it's the hardest award to give out because every year there's a variety of circumstances, and every year it's hard to say who did the best job. I mean, how could you say that Steve Kerr didn't do the best job last year, but there were a lot of other good coaching jobs too.
Ian, thanks so much for visiting with us, and it's been great having you in town. Blazers have enjoyed wonderful success while you've been here. Hopefully,
come back anytime.
Hopefully, we'll cap it off with a victory over Milwaukee tomorrow, but we'll let you get back to enjoying time with your family, and we'll see you back at Moda Center tomorrow, and look forward to your article on CJ coming up very soon.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.